Hello, welcome to the Tuesday night stream of the Dynasty Heatseekers. I'm your host, Bryce Frazier. You could find me on Twitter at RotoHeatBryce, not super active on there, much more active on the Facebook page of RotoHeat Dynasty Fantasy Football. Go in there, give it a like, join the group, ask questions. It's a great community. We just have one main rule, and that's don't be a dick. So easy enough to follow. And I'm joined by always the reliable Anthony Leone. Leone, how are we doing this evening?
Doing well. Hope you're doing well yourself. I want to give a quick shout out to the Scott Fish Bowl starting up. I don't know if you're in that, Bryce, or not. If you're having
I applied, but I was not.
You can probably still do the satellite, which is fun. I did that last year. It was a lot of fun as well. So maybe you can still get in for that. But the Scott Fish Bowl, for anyone that's watching that doesn't know, it's a charity fantasy event, gets a lot of celebrities in there. And they also have a lot of other people that aren't celebrities like myself. I'm going to be doing it for the first time this year. So I wanted to give Scott a shout out. And if you're not familiar with it, go check it out online. It's a Scott Fish Bowl, and it's pretty cool stuff. So I just wanted to quickly give them a quick shout out before we got underway here.
Yeah, I guess I'm not more popular enough, but you are, of course. So maybe next year. I applied really late. So I didn't hear about it till this year, so it is definitely a really cool event. So if you read the highlight of today's show, if not, that's fine. We are going over keeping the same trend. We're going to go over two guys that we think are valued too low in Dynasty when it comes to quarterbacks and tight ends. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and get into some news and notes. So the ongoing big thing for especially right now would be Deshaun Watson.
Your boy.
Yeah, well,
your boy.
He's fantasy. He's not my friend in real life. I don't think he's be associated.
He's your boy.
The activities he does. But I'm not sure. I'll go ahead and talk. What my opinions on it are is 20 of his 24 civil cases are being settled. I'm not a lawyer or anything. I don't know what that means. I mean, that means that he's not going to have 24 cases anymore. It'll be 4 active cases. What does that do for a suspension? Probably nothing. I would assume that he's probably going to get a full year suspension. I don't think it's going to be a multi-year suspension like a lot of people were thinking, because a lot of people are trying to think it's going to be like the Trevor Bauer situation. And those two situations are a little bit different. You can go read into how they are, but I think it's going to be a full year. Him, getting these 20 settled wouldn't surprise me to maybe see 8 weeks. That's what I would hope for as a fantasy owner. But I plan on not, at this point, if I own him, I would be planning on not having him. That's how I would do it. I'd be like, worst case scenario, I don't have him this whole year. Plan accordingly. Do I just continue? Do I start a rebuild and, he's back the next year, still young and going to be probably pretty good on a good team? Hopefully. So what are your thoughts on Deshaun Watson? Does it change anything that you think is going to happen with his outcome?
Yeah, I think this is good news for Deshaun Watson and owners of Deshaun Watson. If we have 24 now, it's basically 4. Now we have 4 instead of 24, because I'm assuming the 20 that were settled are all going to have NDAs, and that's a non-disclosure agreement, basically meaning that if the NFL is going to investigate these 20 cases, all parties are not allowed to talk about it. They're legally obligated. They cannot talk about it. So I'm assuming there's NDAs on all those 20 settlements. And so it means, hey, there's only 4 now. Or if 2 more come up, then there's only 6. Or if 2 more come up, then there's only 8. But as of right now, as far as I can tell, there's 4, because the 20 of those that are now settled outside of court, outside, I'm assuming those have NDAs, and basically they disappear. It's like they never happened.
Yeah.
So that is really good news for Deshaun Watson. That's really good news for Deshaun Watson owners. Of course, we don't know how much money Deshaun Watson is losing to get those settled. assuming he is losing money. We don't know for sure, but it kind of, normally that's how it goes. So I think it's good news for Deshaun Watson. I don't know how long the suspension will be. But if you thought prior to today it was going to be a full year, I think it's more likely that it's less than a full year, not more than a full year at this point. Now, those other 4 cases, maybe those don't get settled. Maybe there's a reason why 4 haven't been settled yet because they're not going to settle. I don't know. But it is really good news for Deshaun Watson owners getting this information today. And if you were a buyer before, you are going to be a super buyer today because this is a move in the right direction for Deshaun Watson playing football on your fantasy squad sooner. So I think it's good news for a Deshaun Watson owner. We still need to see how the rest of it plays out. Whether or not you think the guy is a jerk or not, that's a separate issue. But if some people were saying they didn't think he would ever play again, I find that incredibly unlikely at this point.
It's no coincidence that the Texans organization gets dragged into this, and now it's starting to get cleared up. I really think that plays a huge part in it. And I said it last week. You had a millionaire dealing with this, and now you have a billionaire corporation that's got their hands in this now because the Texans, news was coming out that the Texans almost facilitated this to an extent for him. Because these women were forced to sign NDA or that contract before.
The NDAs. And like you said too, I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans are involved with paying some of these settlements out.
Oh, I guarantee you they are. I can almost guarantee that is a part of, they literally got dragged in a week and a half ago, and now 20 of these cases are now all right. Yeah. These are done. We got four to worry about. It's still a lot. And the reputation is now out there. So I still think that he sees a year suspension as a statement. I think the NFL sees the Trevor Bauer situation, and they're going to try and follow another professional organization's trend. I don't think he gets 2 years like Trevor Bauer, but his was a little bit. I'm not going to compare him per se, but you can see why maybe his was 2 years if you read into it. So
if all of these cases get settled with a non-disclosure agreement, I would not be surprised if he got 0 games suspended. It would not surprise me.
Well, it's a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, and the lack of evidence other than just what they say, because it's what their word against his. Obviously, 24 words against one is pretty alarming, but now it's 4 against 1, and who knows? What if next week it's 0 against 1? Does he see a suspension? I don't know. I really don't. I think, after you talk about it, I've almost changed my mind to where I really think 8 games might be more realistic. But it wouldn't surprise me for a year, and I would understand it. So it's good news for owners in the aspects of fantasy. And in real world, we don't talk about that on here.
Of course.
Join political or other groups for their opinions on that.
Of course.
So, in other news, I almost forgot. I can't believe.
Ooh, your boy.
Yeah, big huge fan.
You're real. This is your real boy.
Yes. Rob Gronkowski has retired again. I think this is going to be it for him, unless he wants to come back just for the playoffs. That wouldn't surprise me. But he is finally retired, and I was showing Leone my rookie card because I'm a big Patriot fan. If you didn't know, so I have this.
That's cool, and that's an autograph at the bottom, right?
Rookie patch auto. All the gear in the card is worn or used, so it's
not as cool as the Mac Jones card you have, but it's still pretty cool.
Oh yeah. If you're watching, this is
the best card.
Legendary.
Yeah, that's
they need to start making Joe Burrow cards when he does the finger guns.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool too. But he's retired. And that takes a hit in tight end rankings because he was probably ranked in the top 15, I would think, in ADP or at least around that area. And redraft probably much higher. So it does do some stuff fantasy wise. What does it do for the tight end in Tampa Bay, they still have Cameron Breit, who seemed to be decent when he was on the field. OJ Howard's no longer there. And then they do have a rookie. I can't remember his name, but it's Otto something. I can't remember. So the tight end, Tom Brady's always utilized the tight end throughout his career. So could be a huge buy on a Tampa Bay tight end. And I think we may talk about that, even though I'm not sure if either of us have them on our list. So let's go ahead and dive into our list.
Well, let me talk quickly about Cameron Breit. So Cameron Breit, I think now is a good time to buy. Obviously, it would have been better yesterday, but even still, and I'm in like 5 dynasty leagues, and he's available to add in like 2 of my leagues, just on the waiver wire. So this is Tuesday. A lot of leagues run waivers in the offseason on Tuesday night, just like in the regular season. Some of them are open, waiver wires. You can just go grab someone. I would check to see if he's there. Obviously, if you're in like a deeper league with, 25, 30 roster spots, he probably, especially if it's tight end premium, he probably will be owned. But if you're in a standard 1 quarterback league, he may just be available on the waiver wire. So I think Breit's a really good buy. Our ADP data from June 2nd has Breit at tight end 44. I expect him to move up probably, what do you think? Maybe 13 spots, maybe up to like 30, up to the 30 range?
I think he cracks the top 28. I realistically think that.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. I think he'd fall like right in line with like Logan Thomas, 29, Hayden Hurst, 28.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I think he's a good buy right now. I think you can, if there's a team that has a few tight ends. I mean, they weren't really expecting to use Cameron Breit this year anyway, so you might be able to snag him off a roster for relatively cheap, and I think he can really pull through. Because like you said, with Tom Brady, he loves utilizing the tight end. So
yeah, I was gonna switch my list and put Cameron Breit in there, but I thought, well, we're using now ADP with Gronk, with Gronk still playing.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to say, well, he's listed at 44, but that's not realistic now because ADP immediately changes when that happens.
Yeah, I think he's going to climb up really pretty high.
Yeah, I think it's a significant jump. He jumps higher than anybody else. There's no tight end even on my list that jumped that many spots that I think I should say. So, I'll give credit before we get into this that sleepers ADP, especially when it comes to quarterback and tight end, they're pretty spot on for me, for my personal things. Even some of the guys I'm mentioning today, really all of them are within 2 to 3 spots of, maybe 4 spots of where they realistically should be. So they did a really good job with the quarterbacks and tight ends.
I know that this data that we're looking at here. Oh, I actually had the wrong. I think when I did the sheet, I might have did the wrong one there. But the problem with the tab here is it does combine some redraft data and some dynasty data together. So, but I know that right now most people are doing dynasty, but beyond that, a lot of people that do dynasty do a more redraft mindset. So I think it's all pretty valuable data. I think it's better than like best ball, for example. That's strictly redraft, and you're propping up guys that you wouldn't normally prop up for certain reasons because of how you don't have to choose a lineup every week. So I think it's good data, and I'm excited to get underway here for our quarterback and tight ends.
Yeah. So I actually want to jump into tight ends first. I know the list has quarterbacks first on here, but let's go talk about tight ends first, because I think they are a little bit less exciting, and I'd rather end on a more exciting note. So, Atlanta, go ahead and talk about your first tight end that you have that you think is ranked too low.
First, make sure, tight end 17. Okay, so my guy first is Irv Smith. So I expect the Vikings to be way better this year than last year. Mike Zimmer, head coach, is gone. Justin Jefferson even said of Mike Zimmer, hey, this is 2022. This guy was teaching. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but he was like, look, this is 2022. This guy was teaching like it. This guy was coaching like it was like the mid 90s. Like he's just like not up. He was too old school. And so now former offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell of the Rams is their new head coach. And I really do think that this is going to take to the Vikings just to that next level. And Irv Smith, obviously he's been disappointing since he's come into the league with injuries. But now that I think he finally is going to be healthy, and he's gotten comfortable with the offense and, Kirk Cousins specifically, I just think that he is almost a shoo-in to be way better. I mean, look, Conklin last year was successful. Conklin, you could start him on a almost every week basis and feel, semi good about it. But Irv Smith is just way more athletic. I think he's going to blow away Conklin's numbers, and he's tight end 17. I mean, he's going to at least, in my opinion, be top 15, probably top 12, just because I just think the offense is just going to be that much more dynamic with him there. So I just expect a huge season out of Irv Smith, and I'm just shocked his value is as low as it is right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a couple of guys for sure above him. Like, again, there's not really anybody on this list that I think is criminally low. Irv Smith was a guy I was looking at, and I was thinking about it. And there's actually a guy listed literally one below him that I chose to put instead. And I'll talk about him in a minute. But yeah, Irv Smith has all the ability to be great. The only thing I worry about is we've seen this, right? We've seen guys that have the talent to be really good, and they just disappointed year in and year out. OJ Howard, another guy that I actually have on my list that I hope finally breaks that. Jonnu Smith, another guy. Like, all these guys have this talent, but they're just not able to put it together, whether it's staying healthy, maybe the wrong scheme, things like that. But Irv Smith's in a perfect position. Like, Adam Thielen's getting old. Justin Jefferson's obviously an elite wide receiver in the league, a top 3, top 5 guy. So he's not going to get all the attention like Kyle Pitts is, right? Or Travis Kelce. So the opportunity is there for him to be good. He just has to seize it. So he's a guy that I wouldn't mind buying. Is this his third year in the league or fourth?
Irv Smith?
Yeah.
I believe it's his third.
So that's traditionally a tight end's breakout to really step into who they're going to be as a fantasy asset for the next 3 to 5 years at minimum. So hopefully he can step in there and become a top 12 guy. Again, though, tight ends tight end 12 isn't really significantly different than tight end 20. So
I think it's his fourth. He was drafted in 2019.
Okay, so it's his fourth year.
This will be 1920. I'm bad at math. Anyone watching knows. Yeah, it's going to be his fourth year.
Okay, so last year should have been, but he was injured. So yeah. I like it. I like Irv Smith pick. I think it's a pretty easy one. It caught my eye. So I'll jump into my first guy. So Hunter Henry, ranked tight end 18 by ADP. Hunter Henry finished last year's tight end 13. So I don't really understand why he got ranked so low.
You don't understand why?
No, not really.
Okay.
I thought he was ranked low last year accordingly, and that's because, again, he's had health issues, but he stayed healthy all year last year. He is a guy that Mac Jones looks to on third down and in the red zone all the time, so he's got the touchdown upside. New England can move the ball down the field. They struggled with getting the ball in the end zone, but when they did get in the end zone, it was Hunter Henry, all the time, it felt like. So he has the touchdown upside. Their wide receiver crew didn't get much better, but it got a little bit better. So you would think that he wouldn't get all, the attention is not going to get all drawn to him. There's a handful of guys that are listed above him that I would much rather have Hunter Henry. Trey McBride, Zach Ertz, Cole Kmet. All these guys are also guys that I'd rather have Irv Smith over them too, which is why I thought he was ranked. I think Irv Smith and Hunter Henry are pretty equal, in my opinion. They're both relatively young, still in their prime years. And Hunter Henry is now, at this point, to me, more proven than any of those other guys. Well, maybe not Zach Ertz, but Zach Ertz is getting older. But any of the other guys just mentioned and is definitely more proven than Irv Smith at this point in his career. So I thought 18 is way too low for Hunter Henry. I think he finishes around tight end 12 again this upcoming year. You may even see a little bit of a boost if they can get him involved more between the 20s, because he was mostly involved inside the 20s, in the red zone last year. So what are your thoughts on Hunter Henry?
Yeah, this is one where I'm going to disagree with you, Bryce. I hear everything you're saying, and I know the touchdown upside is there. We saw it last year. But I worry about regression. He had 50 catches last season. 9 were touchdowns. That means he had an 18% chance. Every time he touched the ball, he was scoring a touchdown. That just doesn't happen. And I have a hard time believing that that's going to happen again. If we talk about a tight end that has 50 catches, what are they going to have? 550 yards and probably like 4 touchdowns. So I think if you take out all of his touchdowns, he's going to fall right down to kind of where he is now in the rankings, and that's kind of where I think an appropriate ranking for him is. I don't think he's a terrible play. I think if you have him, especially in a tight end premium league, I mean that's kind of the thing too. Like in a tight end premium league, you get extra points for catches, not touchdowns. So even in the tight end premium league, he's not really helping you out because he's not really getting a lot of catches anyway.
You don't think that you see progression for Mac Jones? Like I think Mac Jones is not only going to get better, and I think that correlates with
but I think Jonnu Smith would be more of a beneficiary than Hunter Henry. I mean, Hunter Henry.
Okay, I brought up Jonnu Smith once, and you guys trashed me on him. I will say you trashed me on.
Well,
him.
It depends on the context of the situation. It depends on the context of the conversation. But in this instance with Hunter Henry, do I see Hunter Henry getting way more than 50 catches like he did last year? I mean, no. Will he be a red zone target? Yeah, I think so. If he can duplicate his season, then yeah, he's going to blow away the 18 ADP, wherever he's at. But when you have to bank on touchdowns like that, that's really not a good thing to bank on. And it's more than likely he's going to regress in that department. And that's why I just wouldn't bank on him being a top 12 tight end this season just based on that alone. But like you said, if Mac Jones gets better and he still targets Hunter Henry in the end zone like he did last season, then all is good. I just think that that's a little bit hard to bank on.
I think we see more receptions and yards and maybe just a few less touchdowns. I think the receptions and yards will progress where the touchdowns regress. So again, that's because I'm projecting Mac Jones to be much better. Like I think he looked like a rookie a lot of the year. He didn't at the beginning of the year, which is weird, but he started to show like his rookie traits more towards the end. Like he started to have more turnovers in the middle to the end of the season and things like that. But I think we saw that because it seemed like they were getting more like he was getting more confident in the sense of like slinging it around and you can't just play it safe all the time. Like you got to take risks. And when he was doing that, errors come out of it. So I think he's going to learn from those and
again, he with Hunter Henry though. I mean, he was averaging less than 3 catches a game. So it's just it's really risky.
5. I think we see closer to 5.
Yeah, it's just in my opinion, that's the part that's a little risky. But like you say, hey, it could work out. It could work out. I know you love Mac Jones, and that's good. He's a good player.
I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I do like him. All right. Go ahead and jump into your second guy. This is another guy I did like.
You did like him?
I did, yeah.
All right, yeah. So my second guy is Robert Tanyan, ADP 23, tight end 23. And I think, look, Aaron Rodgers is obviously the reason why Tanyan is really noteworthy. I mean, he's going to have to throw someone the ball. And in years past, it's been Devontae Adams, MVS. Both those guys are gone. So you have Alan Lazard, Christian Watson, rookie. Is he going to really contribute? I guess he'll contribute as much as he can. Tanyan has shown in the past he can, kind of like Hunter Henry. He can be a red zone target. He can also, for a tight end, he's pretty athletic, pretty fast. And so I just think he's set up for a real bounce back season, especially considering, like I said, Devontae Adams is gone, MVS is gone. Alan Lazard and Christian Watson, they're going to have someone underneath being able to catch the ball. I think Tanyan really does fit that bill. And like I said, he has that TD upside as he's shown before. And I just think he's a steal at this price point. So like you said with Hunter Henry, I just think Tanyan is a better Hunter Henry. And he has a worser ADP. I'm not sure why, especially considering Rodgers is the quarterback and not Mac Jones. So I'd love to hear your thoughts here on Tanyan, and maybe do you agree that he's the better Hunter Henry? What do you think about that analogy?
No, I don't think he's a better Hunter Henry. Robert Tanyan has had one season that is as good as Hunter Henry's best season, pretty much the same. Hunter Henry's been consistent, right? Like he's not putting up Waller, he's not putting up the top guys. He's a guy you feel comfortable putting in your lineup every. And Cody said it perfect. Oh God, Leone. Like no, he is not a better version of Hunter Henry. Not even close.
Oh really. Man, you guys are haters.
No, he's a one-hit wonder at this point in his career, right? And it's not even a big wonder. It's like a one-hit, like fizzle. Like he had a good season. Like it wasn't great, it wasn't bad. It was a good season. Like he, again, a guy that you felt comfortable putting in your lineup. I think he is strictly like Hunter Henry's far more talented than Robert Tanyan, in my opinion. Robert Tanyan has a better quarterback. Like that's all it is. Like. And the path to targets is easier for Robert Tanyan in that team because the Packers are going to throw the ball more, and they don't have many people to throw it to as of right now. Unless people step up and look really good, Robert Tanyan could be right back where he was last season. He
was injured. I mean, he was injured last season. It wasn't.
Yeah, he was, but he wasn't injured the whole season. He wasn't doing anything when he wasn't injured either. Like he wasn't really doing anything. Like he was disappointed. What week did he get injured last year? That's a good question, right? Like what week was it?
I'm going to check the season log.
Yeah, do that. But no, Hunter Henry is much more valuable than me, or much more valuable to me than him. Again, I think that they both have a good path to targets, but the Packers are going to throw the ball more. So the Patriots lean on the run game. The Packers lean on Aaron Rodgers. So they're going to average 10 to 12 more passing attempts per game, and Robert Tanyan see 2 of this. So yeah, see week 7-ish. So he played. Yeah, he played till week. Played till week 7 and had how many receptions? He had 18 receptions. So he averaged barely more than 2 receptions a game. That's about half of Hunter Henry.
But now that Devontae Adams is gone,
yeah, we'll see. I think. I think his value is low. It is. Like you would think it's high at tight end. What was it, 26? Like he's 23.
And there are reports that came out later today, after we put this sheet together, that he may start the year on the PUP list. So it could be a slow start, but I do think it even offers a better buying opportunity. So wait until he's pupped. Buy him then, and his ADP will be even lower then. You can stash him on your IR and then use him for the playoffs. That's the way to go.
There's only 2 tight ends below him that I think I'd rather have, and there's one on the list. I'm going to throw a curveball and put a different guy than my next one out there. So I originally had Evan Ingram as my next one, and just to quickly summarize why. Evan Ingram has the talent to be really good. And my thoughts behind this is Dan Arnold joined the Jaguars last year and averaged 10 points a week until he got hurt. Dan Arnold averaged 10 points a week. Evan Ingram is much better than Dan Arnold. He can be fantasy relevant this year. But from reports I heard this year and success he's had in the past, I'm going to go – I just saw his name on here. I'm going to go with where'd he go? Not Logan Thomas. But Austin Hooper.
He was one of the honorable mentions I put at the bottom of our.
Oh, did you? I didn't even look. Austin Hooper at tight end 30 to me is an absolute steal. I've been hearing from my buddy who is a huge Titans fan, like looks up their stuff every day. Sleeper came out with an update today that Ryan Tannehill's been like targeting him a lot so far at minicamp this week. Ryan Tannehill's utilized the tight end throughout his career. Like Jonnu Smith had his moments where he looked really good. Delaney Walker was always relevant when he was there. So Ryan Tannehill goes to the tight end. There's not like really great receiving talent. They got Robert Woods, who's pretty good. They have a rookie wide receiver who we can't expect to be coming in and putting up Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson numbers. Get a veteran guy over the middle, big body guy that uses leverage well, like Austin Hooper, on a team that has to basically stack the box when Derrick Henry's there. Austin Hooper could eat this year and be way more fantasy relevant than he was with the Browns. He was really good when he was with Atlanta because Matt Ryan utilizes the tight end a lot as well. I think Austin Hooper could sneak back into that 15 and up range and being valued at 30. I'll take that all day. At that point, he's almost relatively free in Dynasty. So what are your thoughts on Austin Hooper at 30?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like the news alert that went out today because he was the guy that I was already trying to target. And when that came out, it was like, oh man, you guys have to kind of not talk about it. I want to try to buy him lower. So if you're gonna acquire him now, I'd wait a couple weeks. Try to let
some hype die down.
The hype that kind of get faded in people's minds. Let some new news come out. So yeah, but no, I think he's a great buy. And I expect him to have a really good season. I agree with that, basically everything you said, especially without A.J. Brown there now. Treylon Burks looks like he's going to be a little slow to start the season, not, quite, getting the offense figured out.
Maybe he's a little slow at practice.
Conditioning. Yeah, maybe it's a conditioning thing. I don't know, but I just have a feeling that, Robert Woods. Yeah, and Robert Woods is still coming back from injury too. So I agree that Hooper is going to be a big part of the offense, especially early in the year, but I don't see why it would slow down. So I think that's a really good call.
Were you going to disagree or agree with Evan Ingram?
Oh, I would have agreed at the price, but not get my hopes up.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair too. And at tight end 22, it's not. That's why I was like, I don't really disagree with.
But I'd rather have Tanyan than Evan Ingram. Now I understand the upside argument with Evan Ingram.
I think the floor with Evan Ingram might be better than Tanyan, honestly.
No,
I really do.
Not given the opportunity with the target share.
Who's Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball to? Christian Kirk?
Yeah, they just paid him.
I don't care what they paid him. He's going to throw it to who's open.
Chenault, Laviska Chenault, Travis Etienne.
Etienne would be the only one. Laviska was super disappointing last year. Like I think that he steps in as a better Dan Arnold. Leone is not about your Bob Tanyan takes. He is not about it.
What's that?
I'm sorry, Leone. I mean, Cody is not about your Bob.
I love Bobby Tanyan.
Yeah, and you're a Niner fan. Weird.
No, he's friends with George Kittle.
Oh my!
They're like good
so
buddies.
You're friends with him. Okay, got it. So you're friends with him. He's friends with you.
There's like probably like 3 degrees of separation between me and Bobby Tanyan.
All right, fair enough. All right, good. All right, let's jump into quarterback. So we did our tight end. Go ahead and talk about your first quarterback.
All right, let's go. My first tight end for quarterbacks, I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins, quarterback 21. And like I said before, I just expect huge things for the Vikings offense as a whole. Cousins is going to have a lot of really good receivers at his disposal. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne did really well. Dalvin Cook, Irv Smith, who we just talked about. At quarterback 21, I just can't imagine him finishing really lower than that. And I think there's a lot of opportunity where he can easily be a top 12 quarterback this season. They got a new head coach. They know that they didn't run the offense the right way in the past. This is just like when I talked about that Justin Jefferson quote, it's like their offense was like not built for this, you got to be aggressive, throw the ball. Cousins can do all that. We've seen him do it. So I just think that they're going to have a really good season. I think Cousins is going to have a really good year, and he's one of the guys that I'm targeting in redraft, late rounds, and in Dynasty. If I need a quarterback, he's the perfect kind of guy you can get on the cheap that I think could carry you to a championship? Bryce.
Yeah, I like Kirk Cousins. I mean, he is very similar to one of the guys I picked, where I feel like throughout their career, they've been kind of almost undervalued, and they always produce good not top 5 fantasy numbers usually, but they're always really good, and they can help you contend. And Kirk Cousins is how old? You should know, right? You picked him like 36, 35 maybe?
I want to say 34. I want to say 34. Let me double check.
I'm going to say 35. I'll say 35, and so he should have another 3 to
He's 33, but he's 33. Turning 34 in August.
Okay, so he'll be 34 by the start of the season. So he should have 3 to 5 more years of so 3 to 5 is right in the middle of 4, okay? I'm going to give plus or minus 1. 3 to 5 more years of value for your fantasy team, whether he's at that point near the end, he's your third quarterback and it's a guy you plug in during your bye weeks, or is still a starter because he's still producing pretty good numbers even in his late 30s. Kirk Cousins was an easy one for me. I almost put him on my list, but I chose a couple of other guys instead. So I like the pick, Leone.
Maybe he has 6 years left.
I think I don't mind. I don't know, your next one I'm okay with. All right, so I'll go over mine. And this guy I hinted toward the similar value, and it's Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan is at quarterback 26, so 5 spots below Kirk Cousins. He's not criminally low. There's like probably 2 or 3 guys above him that I would rather have him over. But Matt Ryan throughout his career has been extremely consistent despite this last season. And this last season, I'm going to give him a mulligan because he lost his best wide receiver. Even Russell Gage was in and out with injury throughout the season. The only staple in that offense was a rookie tight end in Kyle Pitts. The offensive line was absolutely terrible. They had a wide receiver playing running back. Like, it was just not a situation that I don't think any quarterback would have been good in. You could have put Aaron Rodgers back there and he would have had his career lows and everything. And we've seen, I'm not going to compare him to Tom Brady, but I am in the sense of we've seen quarterbacks that have been very good throughout their career, but when they get put in a bad situation, they have some of their worst years, and then they change scenery and they go back to what they were. Tom Brady's last few years in New England, if you have had him in Dynasty, you should know that he was I think quarterback 20-ish. Like, he was not good, and that's because there wasn't talent to throw the ball to. All he had was Julian Edelman and a Gronkowski that couldn't stay healthy, right? The offensive line was always okay, but I think we see that similar resurgence where Matt Ryan goes back to where he was now that he's with the Colts. He can lean on a run game, so that opens up the rest of the field for him. He's got a promising Michael Pittman Jr., who had a great season last year. They just got a rookie guy in Alec Pierce, I believe, from Cincinnati. They have T.Y. Hilton, who's an old veteran that you could probably count on for some stuff. And they've got great tight ends over there. They got Doyle, Jelani Woods.
Retired.
Oh, Doyle retired? Okay, they got Jelani Woods and Mo Alley Cox.
Right.
Mo Alley Cox has been pretty good throughout his career. Like, he's not consistent when it comes to fantasy, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he's a decent tight end play. And Matt Ryan, I think, can help his value unless Jelani Woods takes over. Not two guys I've been looking too much at, so I haven't paid much attention to their fantasy values. But I think Matt Ryan helps everybody on that team's fantasy value, including even Jonathan Taylor to an extent. So Matt Ryan was a smash for me, and I know you liked him because when I sent you my stuff, you already had it picked, but I didn't see yours. So what you have anything to add on that, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head on the O-line.
Not Nyheim Hines, Cody.
Oh yeah, Nyheim Hines is gonna Nyheim Hines is gonna buoy Matt Ryan back to a QB3 or better. No, no, the offensive line is gonna buoy him. Atlanta was such a mess every year, a mess. My wife is a huge Falcons fan, so I watch more Falcons games than I'd ever really publicly admit. And man, they are so bad. It's just the O-line. Like, he just goes back to pass. There's no one to throw the ball to. He just gets sacked. Like, it's just
It was instant too. Like it's like he would take the ball from the center and be running backwards away from defenders. Like instant pressure. Insane. It was super. I couldn't even watch the Falcons. It was that bad. I felt bad for Matt Ryan.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. I just think that Matt Ryan's people that are too short-sighted will remember the Matt Ryan of late in Atlanta, but not really realize the potential and really the true upside he has. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think he's a great buy. Another kind of guy that I'm looking at to draft later in drafts. You know, when I do a startup Superflex draft, and Bryce, I know you're going to do one, I think starting this weekend. I never take quarterbacks early. I'm always taking the Matt Ryan's.
Auction draft for me this weekend, though.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar just when you do your dollars.
Yeah.
I don't overpay for the Mahomes and the Josh Allens because you can get really good quarterbacks like Derek Carr, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill at a huge discount. And then once you have these really good quarterbacks, you can then use your money or your draft picks for really, really good skilled players like Nyheim Hines. No, for like Justin Jefferson and other guys like that. So yeah, so I just think that that's a great pick, and I don't really have anything else to add. I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, I would say with him being 37, I would be more than likely looking to grab him as a QB3. Like I wouldn't mind going like if you go back-to-back rounds getting quarterback, like you get your second quarterback and your third quarterback. You know what I mean? Like I think that he has good value, especially if you do still want to take a little bit of a risk and maybe take one of these. I think Fields and Lance are ranked way too high ADP, like way too high for me personally. But like a guy like Zach Wilson, who is still ranked pretty low, and he is a riskier pick. If you pick him and then pick Matt Ryan like after him, you ideally still have a QB1, and then one of those guys is your QB2. You got 2 to 3 years to figure out if Zach Wilson doesn't pan out for you, would be the way I would look at it in that sense. Maybe take a guy riskier.
And maybe you hit the nail on the head here. Maybe we should change our schedule and let's just go with like overvalued players. Because I agree 100% on Lance and Fields, like especially Trey Lance. Like I'm a Niner fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
How could you invest a round 1 or 2 pick in a Superflex league on a guy who, number one, didn't really play well and could be just as bad as Sam Darnold next year? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. So I know the rushing upside's there.
That's it. That's it right there. That's why people overvalue it. That's exactly
it's too much.
why.
Yeah,
I know.
It's too much. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we might go over overvalued players.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. All right. I guess I should move on to my second guy.
Yeah, I get to disagree a little bit.
With my second guy?
A little bit. And I'll tell you why. I've done my research on this one. Not for you, for other people. For debates.
I see. Okay. So my second guy is Ryan Tannehill, ADP quarterback 23. Last year, Tannehill finished as quarterback 13. And prior to last year, he was top 10 each of the past 2 years prior. So for the past 3 years, he's been QB 13 or better. So why then would he be ranked so low now, 23? Well, he's just like Cousins. He's a little bit older. He's going to be 34 for this season. But I still think that he, like Cousins, is young enough where he'll still be able to produce at a high level for several years to come. We already talked about kind of their offense in general with, Treylon Burks and Robert Woods and Austin Hooper, who we talked about extensively. And I just think that they have enough guys to really carry the load. And especially with Derrick Henry, I mean, he's just going to keep the offense completely honest. They have a great offensive line. And, at worst, you're going to get a fringe quarterback 1. And at QB 23 value, just like with Kirk Cousins in that same range, I think you can't go wrong. I'd be happy with either one of them on my team. And I'd rather have Cousins just barely, but I think I even have a Superflex league where I have Cousins, Tannehill, and Derek Carr. And it's just like I have like no worries at all. Like I have 3 really good quarterbacks, and I have nothing to worry about. Bryce, what do you think about Ryan Tannehill?
I think Ryan Tannehill's career is. I think he becomes a journeyman here soon, and it might be a journeyman to where he becomes a backup. So this is what I think. He's got good fantasy value, I will say, but he can't lead a team like to the championship, right? Like we saw it when Derrick Henry got shut down that one season where he had the miraculous run in the playoffs, and they got to the AFC Championship game, and the Chiefs shut down Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill dropped the ball. Like Ryan Tannehill, you can't put it on his shoulders at that point. And I think at some point, Mike Vrabel is going to see that, or he might already see that. And if Malik Willis even looks halfway decent, they're like, let's ride with him for the future. I believe Ryan Tannehill is a free agent next year. I may be wrong, but I think he's a free agent next year, and it wouldn't surprise me to see the Titans move on from him because I just think he lacks the ability to take teams to where they want to be. Right, the goal is to win the Super Bowl or at least show the ability to do so, and I just don't think he has it. I really don't. I think that when it's time to put the game on his shoulders, he lacks the ability to go that extra step. So he's similar in the sense of like a Jalen Hurts, where his fantasy value doesn't show his real value in the league. So he could be at some point just a really good backup like in 2 years. So I would much rather have much rather have Kirk Cousins because I think he has the talent to take a team further than Ryan Tannehill. And I think that the reality of him being a starting quarterback in the league is in 3 to 4 years is way higher than Ryan Tannehill's. It wouldn't surprise me to see Ryan Tannehill, not this year, probably not next year, but the year after, just be a backup quarterback. And that's just what I think about him. He looks fine throughout the season. He's a very good game manager, but he just lacks that clutch ability. He's not good enough in the playoffs. He is benefiting so big. He benefits so huge from Derrick Henry being in that backfield that I think that his real talent isn't like being viewed properly, I should say.
I also want to, I understand what you're saying, and I think it's all valid. I want to quickly circle back to what we said about Trey Lance because someone said, well, no, Darnold. And I think Darnold was a bad example. You know who came to mind? Colin Kaepernick. Like I watched probably every single one of Colin Kaepernick's starts as a 49er fan. And I can tell you firsthand that he was not very good. And yeah, he could rush the ball and yeah, he could get you some fantasy points. But I'm telling you what, you have to be good enough to win games to be a starter in this league.
Yes.
And if he's not winning games, yeah, you might get a season or two out of Trey Lance. And yeah, you might be happy with the rushing points he puts up. But he won't start very long in the league. And again, to waste a first or second round pick on Trey Lance, it's too rich for me. I'm a Niner fan. It's way too rich for me. So I guess we can talk more about that next week. Tune in. I think we're gonna do that. So that'd be.
I think
fun.
we'll have a lot of value players that are ranked too high. I mean, Trey Lance could be great, but it's like you just said, it's a risk. Like that's a risk.
Yeah, I don't like taking those risks.
His value for the risk. Like if he was ranked where Zach Wilson's at, I'm like, yeah, that's great value. Get him.
Agree.
Absolutely get him there. But what is he listed on this? Wasn't it like 8? It was something crazy high. I was like, no way. I saw him up that high and I thought, wow. He was ranked above Justin Fields, and I would rather have Justin Fields because
he's ranked higher than Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford. It's just like, we're talking about legit starters, and
QB 11.
Yeah, it's just crazy high. And in a super flex, that's easy second round. Easy.
Yeah.
And that's just crazy.
And the fact that there's been reports that like he's just not picking it up, like doesn't concern anyone. They're just like people get so tunnel vision on rushing upside. Rushing upside's great, but it's not that when you have a quarterback that runs the ball significantly better than he throws the ball, their careers don't last. Like they just don't. Like Lamar Jackson is obviously a much better runner, but he can throw the ball. Like people sleep on that. He can sling it still. And he can and it doesn't matter that he doesn't sit back there and pocket pass. He can roll out and sling it. Like as long as he stays relatively healthy, he's going to be valuable. Justin Fields can sling the ball. Like we haven't seen Trey Lance throw it yet effectively in the league. We could be completely proven wrong, but the risk for his ADP right now is just.
I've seen him throw some really beautiful passes. I mean, he can do it, and I get it, but
we need to see consistency before we're ranking him in the top 12.
I agree.
Quarterbacks.
Dude, it wasn't long ago. It wasn't long ago when people had Baker Mayfield like top 5 dynasty quarterbacks. It wasn't that long ago. People thought after his rookie year he was like Carson Wentz too. Like, it's like people put the cart in front of the horse way too fast. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, the chat is popping today. We'll answer questions here shortly. I just got to talk about my last quarterback, and we'll end it for those listening to this in the form of a podcast, later next week, tomorrow, wherever or whenever, and then we'll answer some of these questions in the chat, guys. So stay tuned real quick. So I'll quickly go through my next guy. And it's Tua Tagovaloa. Tua's ranked QB 17.
You said it like so depressing. Like you're like,
well, I mean, like
it's Tua.
When I picked him, I was looking at the guys above him, and it's all debatable for me, right? But I like mentioning him because I think he's still I think he's undervalued. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him skyrocket this upcoming season into the top 10. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not expecting it, but it wouldn't surprise me. And it's all due to weapons. Like, Tua was winning games last year. Like, the Dolphins' record was bad because he was hurt for a period of time, and Jacoby Brissett was back there. Jacoby Brissett sucks, guys, okay? He's horrible. He's not good. He is not good enough for the NFL. I'm sorry, Jacoby Brissett, if you're listening to this. You don't suck, but you're not good enough to be winning games at the NFL at this point. You're suited as a backup / practice squad quarterback. But the Dolphins acquired, and Tua was winning games last year with basically just Jalen Waddle. And I guess Mike Gesicki, it was just Jalen Waddle, really. Like, he was doing all the work. And the defense was really good last year as well. Tyreek Hill comes to that offense and completely opens up everything. People are saying, Tua doesn't have a deep ball. Who was he supposed to throw it to deep last year? Jalen Waddle is not really a deep ball specialist. Like, he's a guy that works short routes, middle of the field, crossing routes. Like, he's never just been a guy that's typically running down the sideline like a guy like Tyreek Hill. So, and people used to say the same thing about Tom Brady until he got to Tampa Bay and was freaking darting Mike Evans down the sidelines. If you give a quarterback a weapon, they're going to prove to you that they have the arm strength to be good in the league. I think we see Tua play much better, even if he can't throw the deep ball. Throw 3-yard passes to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and watch their speed do the rest of the work for run after the catch. I think we see a significant jump for him. He's got the weapons to do it. It's at this point, Tua's got to prove that he deserves to be a starter in this league. So all the pressure's there. He just has to seize the moment at this point. There's no excuses unless injury happens for Tua Tagovaloa. So he's got to seize this opportunity. So what do you think of Tua being ranked at 17?
Yeah, for me, I think the price is about right. But me personally, I would rather have someone like Kirk Cousins. I'd rather have someone that I just like Derek Carr, like someone that I know is going to be good. And they may not have as much upside, but I at least know they're going to be good and not lose me.
I wouldn't say upside. I would say I would say longevity. I would say that Tua's got the longevity over them at this point. I would say their upside's all the same.
And I'm just not confident enough that I just know that Tua will be a starter 5 years from now.
That's fair. Like I said, it depends on this year.
But I don't hate the pick. I just know that if I did a startup draft, if he was getting drafted around quarterback 17, 18, 19, 20, I'm probably not going to take him there. So I probably won't have a lot of shares of him.
Right.
But
you just prefer guys in that tier a little bit more.
But I will say, if this is like a one quarterback league, I would love the prospect of someone like Tua, just because it's a lot easier to take kind of flyers on these quarterbacks like that, who might have a lot of years left, who might turn into someone really good. But if I have to count on them on a weekly basis right now, it's a little too risky for me. So I don't love the selection, but I don't hate it either. So I think it's good. I think we can end on a positive note here.
You think he's just ranked accordingly?
I think he's ranked about right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, sounds good. We'll end this. So those listening to us later, thank you for listening. We're going to go ahead and address questions. So we do this stream on Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So tune in live if you can. If not, just keep listening to it in the form of a podcast. And thank you for listening. And we'll see you next week. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we got a decent amount of questions. So Jaws asked,
by the way, it's not
early.
8 o'clock Eastern. It's 5 o'clock Pacific because West Coast is the best coast.
No. OJ Howard breakout. I it's funny he mentioned this because I've actually been.
It's a white Ford Bronco.
I don't know what that means.
You don't know what that means?
No.
Oh, it's for OJ Simpson. Driving the white Ford Bronco down the. Man, how old are you again?
I'm 25.
Yeah, that's a little bit before your time, I guess.
Yeah. I like OJ Simpson. And Dalton. OJ Simpson is the reason I have been Dalton Knox is a guy I have not taken a look at. Like, I think OJ Simpson.
Talking about OJ Howard?
OJ Howard. Jeez, we just talked about him. OJ Howard. I think OJ Howard can be much more. I think he could take over. It's not going to be week 1. But if you told me OJ Howard was the starting tight end by week 10 for the number 1 tight end, I should say, for the Buffalo Bills by week 10, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And the price point for Dalton Knox with having OJ Howard there as probably a better athlete, I've been steering clear of Dalton Knox because of OJ Howard. So I don't think it's a breakout year. I think it's more of we're going to see him. If anything, next year would be the breakout year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take over. That's my thoughts on OJ Howard.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good buy low. See what happens.
Yeah.
Don't get too excited.
Pretty much free.
Yeah. But no, I wouldn't bet on it happening.
Yeah.
No.
Zenzo Mims buried on the roster or a potential cut. I'd cut him. He's got little to no value with me. I heard he's repping with the third stringers.
Like I say, everyone is rosterable on a dynasty roster. It just depends on who else you can roster ahead of time.
That's true.
So I wouldn't just cut him. I would first try to trade him. Maybe
You're not going to get anything for him. You didn't get a 5th rounder. You didn't even get a 5th rounder.
Maybe you could get someone like OJ Howard.
You're not going to get OJ Howard for the maybe 6th wide receiver.
You could at least get OJ Simpson.
Yeah, you could probably get that. They'll probably put the same amount of points.
But yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, he's a potential cut. Julio too. Yeah, it was kind of funny you asked Julio Jones here. I would rather
cut Zenzo Mims than either of these guys.
For like a half second though, I had Julio on my roster and I was like, should I just cut him? And I'm like, no, because
what if he signs with Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, he could sign. I mean, he could sign anywhere. His value would just shoot up. I mean, anyone could sign him, and it would do that. So, no, I wouldn't cut either. AB, I guess, is more likely to cut than Julio, but even still, I wouldn't.
I think we're more likely to see Julio on the field again before we see AB.
Yeah, I agree.
It wouldn't surprise me to see both, but I think Antonio Brown. I think he's done. I think his attitude is done. Like he has issues.
Yeah, he's burned a lot of bridges in the league. It's kind of hard to think who now could bring him in.
You don't go on a podcast right after you quit a team and trash talk like Tom Brady, who literally took you into his own home to help you out, like while you were going through all that off the field stuff, like, and then try and like later say that he and Tom Brady are best friends still. Like, there's a lot of screws loose. Yeah, you got some flack for some people liked your take on Lance. William did, and then other people,
I think
just as bad as Darnold.
I think Kaepernick. I mean, that's really who he could be. I mean, I've seen Kaepernick play. Kaepernick chose to run when he should have stayed in the pocket. He was bad at accuracy. I mean, we haven't seen consistency out of Lance. We haven't seen him. He's not a game manager. We haven't seen that as much. So people need to just put the brakes on Lance.
And then Cody even mentioned that they could get off the contract of Tannehill, and I think that's like what I was hearing too. Like, we'd have to see some really good progression from Malik Willis, in practice squads or whatever. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Tannehill not a part of that team next year. But he could still find himself in a starting spot somewhere else. And he did. He threw 3 picks in a playoff game last year. And Henry was back. Like, he's just not the answer. He can't get you there. He's talking about. So, will Eli Mitchell be a mega beast this year? I like this question. Mega beast. It's like a mega pint.
Yeah.
I think he'll be. I think he'll be the guy to use, but I don't expect anything like. I expect mid running back 2 numbers. That's what I expect for Elijah Mitchell.
I think if he can stay healthy, he'll be really good. But his issue was he kept getting banged up. He had like a shoulder issue. He had a leg issue. It's like you could never really depend on him to be there. He was, you never really knew until game day if he was even going to play. In a lot of these situations, like you can't really depend on them. You can't really start them, especially when you have, another guy starting on Thursday or Saturday. It's just a mess with these how they do these games now. Bryce, you probably didn't play fantasy back in the day when there was no Thursday night football. It used to be so easy, man. It was just games on Sunday. You only had to deal with a Monday night game.
It'd be interesting to see what year that started. I know exactly my first season of fantasy football. And the only reason I know that is because it was 2 people dropped out of this league. So they did a dispersion draft between me and another guy.
Yeah.
And he picked it. Quarterbacks were scoring. It was a 1 quarterback league, but quarterbacks were scoring like a ridiculous amount more points. So quarterbacks still had like super flex value because it was like 1 point every 10 yards. But so Peyton Manning was taken first. And my first pick was Randy Moss when he played for New England.
Okay, and yeah. And this was about. I was going to say this Thursday Night Football started about 2007-ish.
So I don't remember playing.
And man, it was
what it was like back then.
So. Oh, it was so much better, man. Like you didn't have to worry about the Thursday night injuries. You didn't have to worry about. I mean, it was so much.
I just remember all the guys because I was only in middle school. And I remember all those guys like, oh, there's a homer pick, already picking bad for his team. And Randy Moss had like 28 touchdowns that season. Yeah. So I ended up like winning it the next year or something. And these grown men getting beat by a middle schooler. Yeah, they weren't happy about it.
If Elijah Mitchell can stay healthy, I think he'll have a great season. But otherwise, I'd be a little cautious.
I hope so. I'm in a league where I'm in a desperate rebuild still, but if somehow Elijah Mitchell and Marlon Mack were like last year's James Conner and Leonard Fournette, I could like win the league. That's the kind of situation I'm in. Like I have the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, tight ends probably bad. I think I'm leaning on OJ Howard and Johnny
OJ
Smith.
Simpson.
So if OJ or Johnny end up being decent, that could help. But I would hope Elijah Mitchell at least gains some value for me to maybe trade him away for a first rounder just to continue rebuilding. But back to Jaz's. So comparison's sake, Deontay Foreman, a potential cut over Antonio Brown or Julio Jones. So which one of these 3 would you cut?
I would rather roster Julio Jones over Deontay Foreman or AB.
Okay. Now, what I think it's more of cut 2 or cut 1. Who would you cut?
Of these 3?
Yeah, who would you cut?
Deontay Foreman.
I'm cutting Antonio Brown pretty easily. I think Chuba Hubbard did not do a very good job last year at all when Christian McCaffrey's absence. Deontay Foreman did a very good job with Derrick Henry out. Like I think Deontay Foreman has value, and he wasn't bad at catching the ball out of the backfield. He would have done better, but they just did a 2-back set.
So my concern with Foreman is, and I get what you're saying, but my concern with Foreman is you kind of need a lot of things to happen here. You need Christian McCaffrey to get hurt, and then you need not a timeshare with Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman.
Even if it is a timeshare and he's getting 10 to 15 touches.
And this is arguably the worst offense in the league with no quarterback. I mean, so it's like, it takes a lot of things to happen for Deontay Foreman to even have any value this season, like where you're going to actually start him. And if Antonio Brown does come back and play or get signed really virtually anywhere, his value is going to double that of Deontay Foreman, in my opinion, most likely. But I understand what you're saying too. Like, I guess if you need like running back depth and you could potentially see yourself starting Deontay Foreman, then I guess in that instance it's okay.
When you say it like that, it does make sense. But in all reality, I think that we are way more likely to see Deontay Foreman on the field again as a starter than Antonio.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with that. I just think that even if it does happen, Deontay Foreman isn't going to be valuable enough or good enough to start him on a regular basis on your fantasy team anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I get what you're saying, and I think it's kind of like a floor ceiling type thing. If you want to go for the ceiling, keep AB, keep Julio.
I think at this point in this, AB can't stay healthy. He might be washed. I think people are getting. I think you might be getting it, and I think you're getting his name is what is maybe valuing him high. Like,
yeah, I got my Steph Curry sneakers right over there.
Yeah, I think the name value is what maybe is making this decision hard for you. I think Deontay Foreman is a guy I'd rather have over both of these guys in all reality. Like, he looked good. He really didn't he doesn't look like he should be a team starter, but he could be, and he could be very serviceable as one. Like, Mike Davis was valuable when Christian McCaffrey went down. Yes, Christian McCaffrey would have to go down again, but what if Christian McCaffrey gets traded? Like, what if he's not there next year and they don't address running back? Like, Deontay Foreman could find himself in a starting job. It wouldn't surprise me. Unlikely, but I think it's more likely than seeing Antonio Brown on the field again.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say you convinced me. I'll take Deontay Foreman over AB at this point. I still would keep Julio over Deontay Foreman.
Yeah, they're pretty even to me, but
because I'm almost positive Julio is going to sign somewhere and his value is going to just skyrocket. I mean, you mentioned the Packers, but I mean, name a team that he would go to where his value wouldn't be helped. I mean, I can't even really think of one. So yeah,
I guess probably the Bengals.
Yeah, but then they would never bring him in.
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
but I feel you.
Yeah, cool. We have another question, and then Cody even said, "Sounds like the Panthers want to do more power running this year under McAdoo. Plus, they'll be motivated to keep CMC healthy. I like Foreman this year personally. I still think Foreman has to. McCaffrey's going to have to get probably hurt for Foreman to have real value for me to want to start him in my roster, unless I'm desperate. And if I'm desperate at that point where I'm forced to start a change of pace back like Foreman, I probably want to lose anyway, so I can get a better pick." In all reality,
it's true.
I mean, in all reality, would you draft Eckler and Taylor over CMC? If that's Jonathan Taylor, I'm drafting Jonathan Taylor over everybody.
JJ Taylor.
Yeah, if it's JJ Taylor, yeah. Jonathan Taylor equals number one. So he said Eckler or Taylor.
I want to give a shout out to William here for spelling Eckler accurately. I mean, I see Eckler spelled wrong left and right every other day. So shout out to William. Thank you for spelling his name accurately. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if it is Jonathan Taylor, like, I would assume that the answer is easily Jonathan Taylor. Like, he is almost in a tier of his own when it comes to running back value at this point. And then kind of like that second tier for me is like Najee and a few other guys. Like Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, but who would you have higher, Eckler or Christian McCaffrey? That's pretty close for me.
Christian McCaffrey for me.
Yeah, I think I agree.
I think Eckler is also good. I think we're going to see really big regression out of Eckler starting this season.
And another thing I like about Christian McCaffrey is that he's valuable out of the backfield, but he's such a good passing option. And you would imagine that like what like the previous comment, they want to keep CMC healthy, but they also want to make sure he gets the ball in space. So I agree. I think Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Eckler is how I'd rank them as well.
Eckler, and they don't really use Eckler as, like, they have tried to use other running backs than Eckler. They tried, they haven't been successful. They have Isaiah Spiller now, who I think can be Eckler to an extent, but a better runner than Eckler. Like, Eckler gets all of his majority of his points in the pass game. Like, he's not, like, if you look at his rushing stats, they're okay. I don't even think he got over 700 yards last year rushing, if I'm correct. Like, he he gets all his points from receiving, and that's fine. Like that's what he is. But I think Isaiah Spiller comes in there and eats into that. I really do. I think they've been trying to get other dudes to come in there, and I think they're going to have the guy this year.
Yeah, I need to trade Eckler in my league now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think right now is the time to sell him. Like he is a guy I'm steering clear of. He's a guy I'd be selling. I didn't own any of him anyway because I wasn't sold on his rushing ability, which was kind of right. I just didn't expect him to be that good in the pass game, like that efficient in the pass game or utilized, whichever one. He works hard. So, kudos to him. It's a guy I faded for pretty much ever. And, it bit me a little bit, but I think this year is the year we see the drop in his numbers, a significant drop. Like I think he drops like outside the top 10. Personally.
Yeah, and this startup I did, I drafted him 38 overall 2 years ago. It was a good pick.
Yeah, pretty good.
All right.
All right.
Well, now you got to trade him.
Yeah, that's all the questions we have. So again, thanks, Jaws, William, Cody. Thanks for tuning in, keeping the chat active. It's getting closer and closer to the season, so it's going to continue to get more and more active. So thank you guys. It makes it more fun for us to answer some questions after we go over our planned content. So thank you guys, and we will see you next week.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.